For decades, Canadians saw traveling to the U.S. as an integral part of life. Short cross-border trips, winter escapes to the south, or a day of shopping never felt like international travel. It was as close as visiting family, a bond between neighboring nations. But in 2025, that has changed. Familiarity has given way to unease, and the once strong friendship now feels like a cold transaction. Millions of Canadians are quietly but firmly refusing to visit the U.S. They're not canceling trips out of fear, but out of principle, a silent protest against shifts in the bilateral relationship. This isn't just a change in travel habits, it's a sign of a friendship turning one-sided. Canadians sense disrespect, unfairness, and a growing distance. They choose to stay home or explore other destinations, not out of anger, but because the U.S. no longer feels worth visiting. This shift doesn't just impact tourism, it raises questions about the future of the two nations' relationship. This is a story of self-respect and quiet but meaningful choices. When Donald Trump returned to power in late 2024, shocking rhetoric quickly surfaced. He called Canada the 51st state on Truth Social, even referring to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau as governor. Trump claimed that if Canada gave up sovereignty, it would enjoy lower taxes, stronger defense, and economic growth. While some saw it as a joke, many Canadians felt deeply insulted. It wasn't the first time they'd heard such remarks, but this time they were not ignored. By May 2025, during a meeting with the new Prime Minister Mark Carney, Trump repeated the phrase, cherished 51st state. The comment wasn't just controversial, it confirmed a reality. The relationship between the two nations was becoming disrespectful. Canadians didn't respond with protests or public arguments. Instead, they chose a quiet but clear action, not crossing the border. This reflects their frustration with the dismissive attitude from a longtime ally. For them, staying in Canada is a way to preserve self-respect, avoiding a relationship that no longer feels equal. This isn't just about politics, it's about values and mutual respect in a friendship once cherished. In 2025, the U.S. imposing new tariffs on Canadian goods wasn't surprising, but the reasons behind them outraged Canadians. Initially, the U.S. tied tariffs to fentanyl smuggling and illegal immigration, despite less than 1% of fentanyl entering through Canada and northern border crossings being rare compared to the South. Yet Canada faced blanket punitive measures. Later, the rationale shifted, protecting American manufacturing. This change in reasoning didn't ease the economic pressure on Canada. Many hoped a change in U.S. leadership would bring a softer tone, but by May 2025, tariffs persisted. For Canadians, this isn't just about economics, it's about unfairness. They feel punished not for wrongdoing, but for U.S. political convenience. This erodes trust in the bilateral relationship. As a result, many Canadians lose motivation to spend in the U.S., as shopping or traveling there feels like endorsing unfair policies. They choose to keep their money at home or spend in countries that respect them more. This is a quiet rebellion expressed through daily economic decisions. Crossing the U.S. border was once a simple experience for Canadians, but now it's a stressful challenge. Many travelers report longer waits, harsh questioning, and random checks of phones or laptops without clear reasons. No official policy changes have been announced, but at border crossings, the atmosphere has noticeably shifted. Canada isn't a major source of illegal immigration or security threats, yet Canadian travelers face disproportionate scrutiny. Customs officers adopt a cold, distrustful tone, making people feel judged from the moment they arrive. The Canadian government has noticed this issue. In April 2025, Ottawa updated its travel advisory, warning citizens to prepare for thorough checks, including electronic devices. This isn't a common move, and for travelers, it confirms what they've already felt. The border is no longer friendly. When every trip starts with suspicion and government warnings, staying in Canada becomes the more sensible choice. Canadians don't want to feel like unwelcome guests, and they're choosing to avoid unnecessary hassles. For decades, Canadians viewed the U.S. as a close ally, a reliable friend across the border. They stood by the U.S. through economic shifts, foreign policies, and military cooperation, even joining wars they didn't start. They believed respect was mutual. But in 2025, that belief is faltering. An AP NORC poll shows only 45% of Americans see Canada as a close ally, down from 62% 2 years ago. For Canadians, this shift isn't just in numbers, but in attitude. They sense a lack of care in how the U.S. speaks about them, how their loyalty is undervalued. Yet Canada remains the largest source of international tourism to the U.S., contributing millions to restaurants, hotels, and winter destinations like Florida or Arizona. But when U.S. leaders dismiss Canadian concerns and downplay the drop in tourism, the message is clear. Canada is welcome only when spending money. This leaves many questioning, why visit a place that only values them at the checkout counter? This lack of respect not only hurts the friendship, but also drives Canadians to seek other destinations. The exchange rate has always been a factor in Canadian travel plans. Spending in U.S. dollars was never ideal, but it didn't stop them from visiting the U.S. However, in 2025, with the Canadian dollar at 1.40 to the U.S. dollar, everything feels pricier. A $12 U.S. meal equals nearly $7 Canadian. A mid-range vacation feels like luxury travel costs. In the past, Canadians might have overlooked this, but with current tensions, from tariffs to disrespect, the exchange rate is the final straw. They're not boycotting the U.S. solely because of the dollar, but it makes staying home or choosing other destinations easier. Countries like Mexico, Portugal, or Thailand are not only cheaper, but also more welcoming with fewer hassles. This isn't a political decision, but a practical one. Canadians are weighing costs and value, and the U.S. is no longer the top choice. They're not making noise about it, they're quietly booking tickets elsewhere, to places offering better experiences at reasonable prices. This is a shift driven by logic, not emotion. Canadians avoiding the U.S. isn't just about rejecting one destination, it's about choosing better alternatives. In 2025, places like Cancun, Portugal, Spain, and the Caribbean are seeing a surge in Canadian visitors. These destinations offer lower costs, longer visa-free stays, and warm welcomes. Meanwhile, domestic tourism in Canada is thriving, with places like Prince Edward Island, Vancouver Island, the Rockies, and the Maritimes drawing crowds. This isn't a political statement, but a choice for a better experience. Canadians realize the world is vast and far more welcoming than the U.S. When other destinations provide higher value, comfort, and fewer hassles, loyalty to the U.S. quickly gives way to logic. They don't need to visit the U.S. for a great vacation. Instead, they walk through Lisbon streets without interrogation or relax in Tulum at a fraction of the cost of Florida. This is a shift driven by logic and comfort, not anger. Canadians are voting with their actions, and the U.S. is no longer the preferred choice. For many Canadians, the decision to avoid the U.S. isn't just about cost or politics, but whether the trip still feels right. Mass shootings have long been part of the U.S., but in 2025, safety isn't the only concern. Many states have enacted laws restricting abortion, banning books, limiting LGBTQ+ rights, and targeting drag performances or gender-affirming care. For Canadians who value inclusion and personal freedom, these policies aren't just controversial, they create a sense of alienation. On online forums, Canadians share which states they once loved but now skip. It's not about fearing danger in the traditional sense, but about an unwelcoming atmosphere. This isn't fear, it's discomfort. When a trip feels like compromising personal values, staying away becomes the easier choice. Canadians don't want to feel they're entering a place that doesn't respect them. Instead, they choose destinations aligned with their beliefs, where they can relax without worrying about clashing values. The year 2025 marks a turning point not just in Canadian travel habits but in how they view their relationship with the U.S. This isn't about traveling less, it's a quiet statement through absence. There are no protests or loud debates, only a silent boycott expressed through personal choices. Canadians feel the U.S. is no longer the place they once knew, a close ally, a welcoming destination. Instead, they see disrespect, unfairness, and a growing distance. It's not one policy or event that turned them away, but an accumulation of disappointments. They choose to stay in Canada or explore other destinations, not out of anger, but because it feels right. This action doesn't just affect tourism, it may reshape the meaning of cross-border relations in the future. Canadians are sending a clear message. They value their self-respect and principles. Their absence is a reminder that even the closest friendships need to be built on respect and fairness.